I've always found comfort in the predictable logic of code, the black and white world of zeros and ones. It's a stark contrast to the gray areas of human morality I've encountered in my career. My name is Chris, and I'm a white hat hacker. You might have heard stories about hackers being the bad guys, but I'm one of the good ones, a digital warrior fighting unseen battles in the shadows of the internet. My journey into the dark underbelly of the web started out of curiosity. It quickly turned into a mission. Sites like Black Source and Grand Mafia weren't just rumors. They were real, thriving hubs of illegal activities hidden in the darkest corners of the dark web. I remember the first time I infiltrated Black Source. It was like stepping into a digital Hades where every click could lead to something sinister. Black Source offered a terrifying array of services, from trafficking illicit substances to selling stolen data. But the most chilling were the live feeds, where anonymous users bid vast sums of money for real-time, cruel spectacles. It was a marketplace of human depravity, an abyss where morality was lost. Grand Mafia, on the other hand, was a network of hired mercenaries and assassins. It was a sinister place where lives were traded like commodities. The anonymity of the dark web provided a shield for these transactions, making it a haven for those seeking to commission the unthinkable. Infiltrating their network was like navigating a minefield. Every step had to be calculated. Every move had to be precise. The day I exposed them felt like a personal triumph, but it came with a price. I had made enemies, powerful ones, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike back. I managed to debunk several of their operations, exposing them to the eyes of the law. It felt like a victory, but in this world, every victory is short-lived. As I took down one site, two more would spring up in its place, like a never-ending game of whack. Mole. The brutality wasn't just in the content of these sites. It was in their relentless nature, their constant evolution to evade justice. I never imagined that my digital battles would have real-world consequences. I was about to learn that the hard way. The day I was arrested was like any other, until it wasn't. I was at my desk, immersed in lines of code, when the sharp knock came. It was forceful, urgent. My heart skipped a beat as I opened the door to find police officers, their faces stern and unyielding. "You're under arrest," one of them said, his voice devoid of emotion. Confusion clouded my mind as handcuffs clicked around my wrists. The charges were absurd, incomprehensible. Hacking, the theft, even conspiracy to commit crimes I'd spent my life fighting against. It felt like a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. As I sat in the cold, sterile interrogation room, the reality of my situation began to sink in. The evidence was stacked against me, fabricated digital trails leading back to my doorstep. I realized then, with a chilling clarity, that this was Arat's work, the dark web administrator I'd crossed paths with in my crusade against Grand Mafia. He had framed me, meticulously weaving a web of digital lies to ensnare me. The brutality of the online world had spilled into my reality, shattering the barrier between my virtual battles and my physical existence. I was no longer just a white hat hacker fighting against faceless criminals in cyberspace. I was a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game. The days blurred into each other as I awaited trial. Each moment was a torment, a mixture of fear, anger, and a relentless drive to prove my innocence. But the more I struggled, the tighter the web seemed to wrap around me. It was a brutal realization, understanding the extent of Arat's reach and cunning. In the midst of despair, I clung to one thing. I had to survive this. I had to clear my name and expose the true criminal behind this twisted plot. It was a battle unlike any I had faced before, one that I had to win, not just for myself, but for all those who had fallen victim to the merciless world of the dark web. The day I was released felt less like freedom and more like the beginning of a new imprisonment. The charges against me had been dropped due to lack of evidence, but the shadow of suspicion still hung heavily over me. The world outside felt different now, more hostile, more dangerous. I was a free man, yet I felt more trapped than ever. Paranoia became my constant companion. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, followed. My usual haunts on the internet, once a sanctuary, were now off limits. Eric's reach seemed to extend everywhere, and I couldn't risk leading him back to me. I was cut off from the one thing that gave me power, my connection to the digital world. Every unfamiliar face on the street seemed like a potential threat. I found myself diving into alleys, taking convoluted routes to shake off imaginary tales. My life had become a twisted game of cat and mouse, and I was always the mouse, scurrying for cover, for survival. Sleep was fitful and filled with nightmares. I dreamt of dark web assassins, of Arat's sneering face, of being trapped in an endless maze of digital deceit. The line between reality and paranoia blurred, each feeding into the other in a vicious cycle. Despite the overwhelming fear and isolation, a fiery determination simmered within me. I couldn't let Arat win. I couldn't let Arat win. I had to clear my name, not just for my sake, but for all those who suffered because of people like him. I started gathering evidence, working in the shadows, using every trick I knew to stay under the radar. It was a slow, painstaking process, but it was all I had. As I delved deeper into this world of shadows, I stumbled upon a cryptic message. A single word stood out, resonating with an eerie significance. Bishop. It was a clue, a lead that I couldn't ignore. It promised a path to the truth, to my redemption. Little did I know, it would lead me to a confrontation more brutal and terrifying than anything I had ever faced. The word bishop haunted me. It was a cryptic clue that gnawed at my mind, a puzzle piece in a game of high stakes. I dove back into the digital world, my fear now overshadowed by an obsessive need for answers. The deeper I delved, the clearer it became. Bishop was not just a word. It was a code name, a key to unraveling Arat's schemes. I traced the digital breadcrumbs, each step bringing me closer to Arat. It was a perilous journey, a dance on the edge of a knife. My every move had to be calculated, each line of code crafted to avoid detection. The tension was palpable, a constant weight on my shoulders, as if I was walking through a minefield. Then it happened. A breakthrough. Hidden in the encrypted depths of the dark web, I found it irrefutable evidence of Arat's crimes, a digital trail leading straight to him. It was my moment of triumph, but it was short-lived. Arat was not one to be outsmarted easily. He knew I was onto him, and he struck back with a brutality I had never seen. It was a battle of wits and wills, our confrontation unfolding in the shadowy realms of cyberspace. We were two hackers locked in a deadly game, each move more dangerous than the last. But I had something Arat didn't, the truth on my side. And in this game, the truth was the deadliest weapon. The final confrontation was intense, a flurry of code and countermeasures. It was in this digital chaos that I finally cornered Arat, trapping him with his own web of lies. The moment I exposed him, it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. The game was over. I had won. But victory was bittersweet. As I sat there, surrounded by the remnants of our digital war, I reflected on the journey. The dark web was a world where brutality knew no bounds, where the unseen battles were the most dangerous. I had survived, but I knew the fight was far from over. There would always be others like Arat, lurking in the shadows, waiting to spread their web of darkness. I had emerged victorious, but the battle against the dark web's criminal elements was an ongoing war. A war I was determined to keep fighting.